Good morning, Britain. An arrest has been made overnight over the London drive-by shooting. Police are holding a 22-year-old man on suspicion of attempted murder following the attack as a memorial service took place on Saturday. A 7-year-old girl remains in a life-threatening condition this morning. 5 other people were injured.
Police could shut down eco-protests even before they're causing serious disruption under new powers unveiled today. But is this an unfair attack on our right to protest or an overdue clampdown on disruptive demonstrations?
Schools could be closed if, as expected, teachers vote for strike action later today. They would join rail workers and ambulance staff in taking action, alongside nurses who are planning to walk out again on Wednesday and Thursday this week. The government wants new laws in place to guarantee a minimum level of staffing during strikes.
And as workers fight for more pay, Martin Lewis joins us after 8 with a focus on energy bills. Could they be slightly less expensive? Is there light at the end of the tunnel?
Rain, sleet and snow clears the southeast of the UK today, and then a cold, frosty, sunny day ahead. The outlook remains cold and it may well be Balloon Monday, but I'm going to brighten your day with some cute owls later on this morning. All the details of that and more coming up. Good morning, Britain.
Monday, 16th of January 2023, live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain with Susanna Reid and Ed Balls.
A very good morning to you. A very happy Monday. Ed Balls, how are you?
Very good indeed. Very
Happy
good.
New Year.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. Now, you're a former Education Secretary.
I am.
Looks like the teachers might vote for strike action. That result is being announced at 5 o'clock later today. And we know, of course, NHS staff also in this what feels like a set of rolling strikes. Yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer set out some of his plan for the NHS. What's Rishi Sunak's plan, as you understand it? Because it doesn't seem to be paying staff more.
No, and I think if you go back to a month, 6 weeks ago, when the government was being very hardline about the strikes, it looked then as though they thought they could turn public opinion. But the public seems to be pretty solid in supporting what's been happening in these strikes. And on the one hand, you have the government saying, well, maybe we need to concede on some pay. You had talk of the Health Secretary asking the unions to put pressure on the Treasury for more money. But you've also got the government today bringing in this legislation to have minimum standards of service and to say to workers, if you go on strike and the standard goes below the minimum, we could then sack you from your job.
So we spoke to Steve Barclay, the Health Secretary, last week. I mean, I think I must have asked him 5 times, are you going to pay them more money? It looks like there was a stage when he did want to pay them more money, but isn't getting the money that he needs in order to be able to resolve it. The other thing I spoke to Steve Barclay about last week was it's all very well to say on strike days we need a minimum level of staffing to ensure safety. But right now, on non-strike days, it doesn't feel like you would get an ambulance in the time you needed to save lives.
And, of course, who would be sacked then? If workers on strike could go lose their jobs because of the minimum standards not being met. I mean, at the moment, if people are waiting an hour and a half for an ambulance,
that is
when you're having a serious, that is
exactly.
well below the minimum standard. I think there's a bigger point here for the government that I think they allowed last year it to look as though the pandemic was done and we're through that and now sunny uplands, whereas actually in our schools, lots of our children are still hampered by all the education they lost. The last thing they want is the teachers going on strike again. The NHS has clearly got huge backlogs because of people who didn't have operations and treatments during the pandemic. And then, of course, the courts bunged up because of all the cases which couldn't happen for those couple of years. What's happened to supply chains, energy prices is partly the result of the pandemic. It was always going to take time to come through this, and given the impression that it was all going to be fine, and then now we're in like a new crisis, this is still the pandemic and its aftermath, and we're going to be dealing with this for a few more years. I don't think people, understood that. I don't think the government explained it properly.
No, but also the government seems to keep saying, well, it's because of the pandemic, as if it has no control now over dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic. Anyway, unfortunately, this morning we do not have a government minister to talk to about that.
I thought we always had a government minister.
Well, Rishi Sunak has a new policy, of course, which is that you don't put a government minister up every day to take accountability and answer questions from viewers of our television
We will
programme.
be talking about this later when we're talking about the latest kind of revelations from Prince Harry about whether the royal family should go out. And I think the royal family, especially Her late Majesty the Queen, was always kind of very effective in never explain, never apologise, just carry on. If you're the government, though, you're not the royal family, and you've been elected, and there's an election coming up, deciding not to put ministers up to explain what is going on in the country when there are lots and lots of things which are quite challenging, in my view, generally, it's a mistake. I think the government needs to be out there explaining and telling people what's going on. And, if I was advising Rishi Sunak this morning, I'd say, get somebody on the TV.
Or Rishi Sunak himself.
Well, I mean...
We're on air until 9 o'clock. Number 10, and it would be great to see you this morning.
Didn't you do like a really brilliant interview last year with the then Prime Minister?
Thank you very much
Which
indeed.
I think has actually led to you and Good Morning Britain being nominated for...
We are nominated for an award, yes, in the Broadcast Awards for Best Daytime Programme. Thank you very much. You're part of that team, that award-nominated team.
Rishi Sunak, come on.
Yes.
Susanna can do the interview and,
we would
strengthen our nomination.
We would both do it, but, holding ministers to account is an important part of this programme. But we will do it in their absence this morning.
Good.